Okay, so I want to give a lesson on why addiction is not a disease. People tend to conflate withdrawal, having withdrawal, with having a disease of addiction, number one. That's probably one of the first most confusing things. When I make a post that addiction is not a disease, they'll go right to, well, what about withdrawal? Well, withdrawal is poisoning. It's you need to be detoxified, meaning you're toxic, right? You've been poisoned. So that's not a disease. If you drank a bunch of lye under the kitchen sink, for instance, the chemical lye, well, it would kill you. But let's say it didn't kill you. You would need to be detoxified. Or if you drank bleach or something like that, right? Well, alcohol is no different. If you drink enough of it, long enough, consistently enough, you will toxify your body and you will have withdrawal. So that's an issue of toxicity, poisoning. And within 3 to 14 days, you'll be detoxified and you'll be fine. Then the person will jump to the next falsity, and that is that because the person has withdrawal, that they will be compelled to drink beyond their free will, that they have to drink, that the phenomenon of craving will strike them. And that's just not true. We know that from priming dose studies. We know that from all kinds of research. We also know that from the fact that there are millions of people throughout the world, globally, who detoxify or have withdrawal that aren't compelled to drink and stop, whether they go into detox or not. And so, and then they stay stopped. So then the next thing that jumps out at people is, and I think this inconsistency should be talked about. They say in AA and in treatment that you have to hit bottom, that you have to be at your worst to stop. You have the disease of addiction, and you have to hit bottom. That's a really weird idea. It's a really weird idea. Not only is it weird, but it's dangerous. And it's dangerous because if you're telling somebody that they have to hit rock bottom is death. And most people don't stop at rock bottom. They stop when they want to have a better life. It's a very positive experience, stopping. And we should always be hedging on the side of, do you want to have a better existence than drinking and drugging every day, or binging? But on the one hand, they'll say you have a disease, but then they say you have to continue to drink till you can't stand it anymore. It's the only disease I know. We would never tell a cancer patient, you have to wait until the cancer gets really bad before you're going to stop having it. The reason that's so absurd is because cancer is a real disease, and drinking, the activity of drinking or taking drugs, is not. So we can play these word games with something that is a habit. And we can tell people they need to hit rock bottom and be vulnerable and beat up. But the reality is, because it's not a disease, we can play those games. So on the one hand, they want you to hit rock bottom, but at the same time, they're saying you can't stop. So which is it? Do you have to hit rock bottom or can you stop? Now, it's obvious that every single person I've ever met, and I've met tens of thousands and worked with tens of thousands who's had a substance use problem, they stop all the time. They stop after a bender. They don't smoke crack endlessly until they're a crack-taking zombie. They don't do heroin until they die. If you were truly powerless, if you were truly diseased, if you truly had no free will, if you truly couldn't stop, if the phenomenon of craving was pharmacologically driven into the hacked brain theory, this disease of the brain theory, then you would never stop. You would start and you would end dead. And very, very few people do that. And those that do usually die accidentally from polysubstance withdrawal or polysubstance overdose. So I think it's really important to know that the disease theory has always been just a theory, and the brain disease is even more ridiculous because when you look at the studies, for instance, that they did with meth addicts, and then they take a before scan, a during scan of the brain, and then an after scan. They couldn't get the after scans unless everybody in the study had stopped. But the brain disease says you can't stop. Yet everybody in the study stopped at the height of brain change. So that sort of throws that theory out the window. So the very studies they used to prove that you are compelled beyond your free will actually proved the opposite, that you could have a brain that was changed and yet you could stop voluntarily. So there's all this misinformation out there. And in the freedom model, we cover it. Now I'm just rambling stats and ideas out here in this sort of video as I'm sitting on my couch in my office. But if you want all the data, just go on to thefreedommodel.org or get our book, The Freedom Model, Escape the Treatment and Recovery Trap. And you can get all the facts there. So it's in our link tree, and you can get the book for free there. All right. And yeah, so sorry if I was rambling. It's just stop believing that you have a disease you don't have. And you can move forward with your life. The pharmacology of drugs do not compel behavior. They don't. They never have. They never will. You always have a choice. You always have had a choice. And you've chosen because you wanted to get high. So, yeah, that's it. All right. Take care, everybody.